Hey there, welcome back to my channel. My name is Allison, and today I'm really excited because we're going to talk all about a witchy book series, Practical Magic. It's the fall season, it's witchy season. I've got on my Fleetwood Mac shirt, bringing the Stevie Nicks witchy vibes. I am so excited to talk about this book series because I love the movie. If you're anything like me, you've been watching Practical Magic since you were young and absolutely fell in love with the Owens sisters and their story. I read this book series over a few years, reading one at a time during the fall witchy season. It is prime time to enjoy these books right now as we are solidly into fall. In this video, I'm going to give you all a quick book review of the 4 books within the Practical Magic series written by Alice Hoffman. I'm also going to share with you what order I recommend you read them in. And if you're not into reading all 4, I'm going to tell you which ones of the series that I think that you can skip. So a bit about the order of reading this series. There is differing opinions, and even the author has 2 different versions of what you should do. But as someone that has read the series, I recommend you read them in chronological order. So from the original origin story of the Owens family line to the end. Now, this is not the order that the author wrote them in. There is opinions that you can read the series in the order in which they were written, but you are jumping timeline. I really recommend, if you want to read the full series, you read them in order of timeline. So way back with the Owens great-great-grandmother that started the curse to the ending of the series. Now, again, this is not how Alice Hoffman wrote the series. She wrote it in a very different order. I'm assuming that it came out of, it was popular. She started loving the characters, wanted to give them backstory, then complete it. And so the series jumps around if you were to read them in publishing order. So I'm going to talk about them in story chronological order. So when you look up the series, sometimes there'll be competing numbers of what is book number 1. But I recommend you start with the book Magic Lessons. Magic Lessons was published in 2020, is the story of the origin of the Owens curse. So from the great-great-grandmother that started this whole line. And you get a little window, if you've watched the movie, that first maybe like 2 minutes of the movie, when there was back in like witch trial times and the Owens woman is like about to be hung. Again, it's not a spoiler. If you've watched the movie, it happens within the first like 60 seconds of the movie. But this is the book of her origin story, what witch she trained under, her storyline, coming from what is now known as the UK, traveling to other islands, and then eventually landing in what is now Massachusetts of the United States. And it is such a cool book. It is so far removed from Practical Magic, the book and the movie, which is very like in the 90s and all of that. This is very back in the time of like witch trials, witches living in cottages, women not having any ownership over themselves and their livelihood. Like it is a true like witchy novel in that way. And so I really loved this story and have recommended it to many friends. Absolutely feel like you could just read this book as a standalone book if you are looking for a fall witchy vibe book. Magic Lessons is a great one and done book, especially if you've like seen the movie and you're kind of like, the longer line of their curse. The second book in this series is The Rules of Magic. And this book was actually published in 2017. So you're starting to see that discrepancy of like timeline that the books follow versus when they were published. So this book was published in 2017, and we jump forward quite a bit in this storyline. This book is based in New York City, and these 3 siblings are the 2 aunts that we meet in the Practical Magic movie, Jet and Franny. But what the movie cuts out that you get from these books is there's also a brother. And the brother Vincent also has magic in him. And it's these three siblings being raised in the 1970s and 60s in New York City by their single mom. They're outsiders. Their mom wants nothing to do with magic because she's been hurt by their curse. She has lost the love of her life. She is now a single mother of three, and she has a no magic rule in the house. And it is them as preteens and teenagers, because obviously there is a gap in age amongst the three of them, and how they go about their lives and learning their powers, their sibling relationship, how deep it is, and what parts of it become like broken and splintered because of this curse having to do with people loving an Owens woman and being cursed by that. We are following these three young individuals and their love lives and how that curse plays out, or the ones that shut themselves off from love completely because they don't want anything to do with the curse. So this is the bulk of what this story is really getting to know these siblings and more about how the curse has like affected generations. Third book in the series is Practical Magic, and this book was written in 1995. It was the original one and only standalone book. And then again, because the story gained popularity and Alice is that she really loves these characters, is why she like went back and gave backstory and wrote all the books again in a very different order. So if you were to read them in order of when they were published, you would actually start with Practical Magic. I think that that's not the best way to read them. It is the third book in the series, and this is the one that the movie that most of us have all seen and loved is based after. So this is now, we see Jet and Franny and Vincent in this book is like they are solidly in their adult years and have moved away from the city. Vincent is actually off living in Europe, and Franny and Jet live together outside of the city, which is in Massachusetts. And they live there and are doing magic, you know, helping the women of their community. They are shunned and also loved by the community at the same time. And they have their nieces come and live with them, Sally and Jillian, which is, you know, Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman's characters. These young nieces come to live with them because their mother has died of a broken heart because they had lost their father to the Owens women curse. So we are seeing, again, generation after generation, the effects of this curse. The movie and the book are very similar, but I feel like if you just really love the movie and you want to read the book, you will enjoy the book because you'll get more context. You find out that there's this whole uncle character, which he's not mentioned at all in the movie. So you just get like more context, like anything. You know, if you love a movie, reading the book, it's just nice. You sit longer with the characters, you see more about them being developed. There's more like little side stories that you get to enjoy. But I feel like if you are not wanting to read the whole series and you absolutely love the story and the movie of Practical Magic, you could skip reading the book and read some of the peripheral books to get more enjoyment out of the characters and not necessarily like have to read this book to pick up on things that you might have missed. The Book of Magic is the fourth and final book in this series. This book was published in 2021, so it's still relatively recent, and this is like the final book in the series. There's no more that are going to be coming after it. And in this book, we have now 3 generations of witches, each with 2 women and Vincent. So we do still have that brother, but no other generation has had a son since that original generation of Vincent, Franny, and Jet. So we have that elder generation, which are like solidly in like grandparent years. Then we have Jillian and Sally, solidly in their 40s at this time. and then Sally's daughters, which are the two younger ones, which are in their 20s. And so in this story, we have these three generations, and it is the youngest and the oldest generations that are really like just done with the curse. And so it is a very cool, high, like lots of magic in this book. So I feel like the other books, we see magic, we follow it, but it's like in smaller pieces. It's more about this magical curse. I feel like these witches are like a lot of like kitchen witches and like garden witches and things like that. They do have magic and we see how they use that magic. But I feel like this last book has like more of that big supernatural kind of magic that like takes over a whole town or impacts multiple generations. So if you really like a bigger, more magical story, I think this fourth book you would absolutely love. So the Book of Magic is a great story of the youngest two in this generational line wanting to break the curse. Just like with all the other generations, there is one that is more of a romantic and one that is hardened and like really shut down by the curse. And so we see that playing out with Sally's daughters, who are now in their 20s or early 30s, starting their lives and their love lives. We go to Europe, we see their Uncle Vincent there and where his life is. And there's a great reconnection of those siblings. So there is such a cool story of all four of these books being read together and really seeing the family through line. But the last three books of this series, from the Rules of Magic to the Book of Magic, really is following mostly Franny, Jet, and Vincent. I hope that as we went through book by book, you can see why I really solidly think you should read them in the timeline in which the series is written, not necessarily when they were published. I feel like if you read them in the order that they were published, the story would feel very disjointed. You'd be jumping timelines. You wouldn't remember or know all the history of the characters. I really don't understand why anyone on the internet recommends reading them in the order in which they were published. If you love the Practical Magic movie and you just want to dive more into the series, I think one of two things. I think you should read the final book because, as many of us know and we're very excited, is we're going to get a Practical Magic 2. And I, as someone who's read the series, am very interested if the second movie is going to follow the very last book of the series and like the curse and the completion of the curse and how it's completed, and that storyline of these three generations of women breaking that curse and going to Europe and like all of that. Like, I'm so curious what the second Practical Magic movie is going to be. Reading that book would be super interesting for you if you love the movie and want to know more completion. And even without like in the movie world knowing about the brother Vincent and the past history of it, I think you can still totally read book 4 and enjoy it and really get a lot of closure around this curse and these Owens women. The other book I definitely recommend as a standalone book or in addition is the very first one, so Magic Lessons, where the curse originates, and reading this storyline of really far back in the time of like witch trials and where the Owens curse came from and the great-great-grandmother's story and all of her struggles and how she came, across on boats and things like that, and just like a really big adventure journey in that book. So if you love the movie, there's lots of options in the series of these 4 books. I love the whole series. My least favorite book, I'm sure you can tell, is the second one. It did give me a lot of character development in it, but I feel like you could skip it. But if you love to read like me and you just want to chew through a lot of like witchy books during this time, I think this series, even though, it originally was from 95 and 97, 2020 and 2021, were the last two books of the series that were published. I think they're still like modern and really interesting and fresh, and really excited to see Practical Magic 2 next year. I hope you all are having a really good witchy fall season. And if you're loving practical magic and reading about witches, you might like my Moon series that I'm doing here on this channel. I talk about books and intentional living, and I absolutely love moon magic and following the moon. So if that interests you, definitely check out this series. Subscribe to my channel. I'd love to hang out with you more here. Let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of these books from the series, or if you think you will now that you've watched this review and you love the movie and you want to dive more into the Owens sisters. I would love to know, and I hope you have a really great day.